Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Friday morning, September 22nd, 2023. We get together with our distribution partners and now even our clients most weekdays at this time to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and to support each of you. We've had great success. August was a record setter, and we'll see how September turns out, but we're having a lot of forward momentum. So it's not as if we were at a point where we needed to make a change to necessarily improve or let alone survive, but we have been paying close attention to you, our distribution partners. Some of you are outstanding at generating clients. You just have a knack for it. You have resources, you have techniques, whatever the reason. Some of you are doing really, really well. Others, frankly, not so well. Well, we have a plethora of people coming into our funnel, and it just became obvious we should probably offer those of you that would rather have, instead of leads, clients. Now, I know this is confusing. It says win by leads because we don't sell leads. But the bottom line is we're going to talk today about the Client Placement Program, CPP for short, as a resource to each of you who are branches who either need more clients to stay compliant and to make money, or just want an outsourced sales model. So this is not being pushed on you, it's just simply a resource. And in fact, we're wanting to start just with an initial 3 to 5 branches to manage the number of relationships we need. So if you're interested in being one of the 3 to 5 branches, and one already signed up this morning, ironically, but regardless, let us know. So the Client Placement Program, CPP for short, was developed to assist branches who want to work with clients but want to outsource the client development process to our sales infrastructure. So just be very clear, we're going to provide you, under this model, if you want to participate, contracted clients, not leads, not prospects, not names and numbers, contracted clients. So we'll talk about how it's going to work specifically, but in short, we're getting the client under contract, and then we're transferring them over to you if you want to work with them. And pretty much you make the same amount of money you would normally. There's some nuances we'll go through, but it's a good deal for those of you that want to outsource. So as I look at those of you that are on the training today, there's several of you that I would really, really, really ask you to encourage this, to consider this, because your numbers are off. And then there's others of you, many of you that are doing quite well. You could use this as a supplement. So you don't have to go all in. So let's go ahead and talk further. Now, it is important to understand that we've developed this to help you remain compliant. So for those of you that are not remaining compliant, if you think about when you signed up as a branch office, you signed that license agreement. We said there's a 30-day grace period to give you some time to ramp up. And then after that, we need to be helping at least 2 clients a week, because we don't want dabblers, right? The branch model was never intended to attract dabblers. Now, can it be part-time? Can it be a side gig? Of course, but we don't want dabblers. It's just not, you won't be good. Most things in life, if you do occasionally or rarely, you rarely develop expertise and proficiency. And we want to deliver a higher level of performance to the participants, to the clients. So we don't want dabblers. And we made that clear from day one when we started offering the branch license agreement out to the marketplace. We don't want dabblers. So 30-day grace period. And then after that, we need to be helping at least 2 clients a week. Now, I know that there can be some natural swings, ups and downs. Maybe we have 3 this week, and maybe we have 1 next week, or what have you, or you're sick or off for a week. You know, we really often will look at 8 a month. So it kind of smooths the up and down flows of a day-by-day or weekly basis. But that's the deal, right? That's what you agreed to do. If you're a branch, you agreed when you signed your branch license to enroll at least 2 clients a week, 8 a month, with a 30-day grace period. So this is a serious commitment. We're serious about supporting you and assisting you and training you. And if you're not compliant, there's really one of two things. Either get compliant, and this could help you instantly do so because we're providing you the clients, or pay the license fee. And it's not like some penalty. It's just there's always been the license fee. We've just said we don't want you to pay it. We really don't want you to pay the license fee. However, we want you to do what you promised to do, and we'll defer it. In other words, not charge the license fee. So in short, this is all positive, not meant to be a negative point. Here, if you are falling short, here's the easiest way in the world to get compliant. Plug and play. Okay, so then let's go to what you get. What do you get as a branch? So you'll literally get a client under agreement. Now, there's an asterisk there. So these are clients that have signed our agreement, not your agreement, right? So we're not really becoming a marketing rep for you. We're transferring an agreement from us to you. So you do have to go into it eyes wide open. It's going to be a standardized agreement. There's no flexibility on this, right? Because this is a client that we've signed up to the standard terms. Your terms might be different. And if you go generate the client, you can charge the client whatever you want because it's in your contract. But these under the CPP will be without exception, $9.99 refundable setup fee, which we're splitting. We'll go through the dollars and cents in a minute, and it will be a 10% performance fee. So please don't come back and say, well, I don't want to work for a 10% performance fee. I need at least 15. Well, then don't use the CPP. This is standardized. These are people that are already under contract, new ones every day that we can transfer to you. So understand they're under agreement at the standard rates. So as mentioned in the sub-bullet here, we'll transfer that agreement to you. So it becomes your asset. It becomes your client. And there's some real benefits of it being your asset, which we'll talk more about in a moment. So it thus becomes your client. So it's not like it's our client and you're doing the work. We're going to transfer that asset from us to you. Now it's your asset, just as if you generated that client, but you have to comply with the original contractual terms. You can't say, oh, by the way, client, I took over your contract and now you got to pay more, right? That's not reasonable. Now, you still have the opportunity to help clients improve their credibility. And I'm always worried about how I word this, because I don't want you to take it as if we're trying to get clients in on credit and funding only for the purpose of selling them other things. That's not the case at all. But if they come in and we realize they have credibility issues, of course, you and I know that we have some resources to help them with their 3 C's so they do get credible. My point here is just to say you would still share normally in those revenue streams in addition to the base revenue stream. So you're not giving that up. So let's say that the client comes in and we realize, oh, they really need the business startup program. If you think they do, you talk to the client agrees they do, they still pay you the $2,500 and we split that 50-50 normally. So the point is you're not giving up anything here. Same with the trade line collateral support program, as we've had other trainings on. So if a client has a collateral shortfall or could benefit from the trade line in other ways, it works the same. You still make $2,500. So the point here is you're not giving up anything. It doesn't change this. Make sense so far? So let's talk about what you're going to do with the clients that are placed. Well, you're going to just do the normal thing, right? You didn't have to go market to the client. You didn't have to get the client under contract. The marketing's done. The client's contracted, so that's done. But at that point, you're going to do the normal 3 phases. And we just recently had that training. We talk about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. If you didn't see that, don't remember it, go back and view it. But it's going to be the same. We'll do a warm handoff so they're not surprised. And then you're going to take the client and march forward. So let me pause for a moment and get feedback. What's the feedback that any of you have, especially those of you that are not hitting your numbers? What are your thoughts of this? Andrea, for example, what's your feedback? Ken, Kimberly, Lon, Peter, Sylvia. And we've got a number of you that are great people that just, for some reason, it doesn't matter why. It's not a fault of yours, But if you don't have the knack to generate the clients on the front end, what's the feedback that each of you have of this approach? So instead of giving you leads, which we still can, so we're not changing anything else, right? And this is not like a wholesale switchover. It's just it's a supplement that you could decide. You could let us know, hey, I want one new client under CPP. Great, we'll transfer them over. Oh, no, I'm ready for 10 new clients under CPP. Great, we'll transfer them over. So this is a win-win scenario. It helps us because it helps us scale back the number of internal staff that we need to hire to work with the clients. And it helps you make more money and stay compliant with your branch license agreement. Okay, so let's get down to the pricing model, how it works. So if you want to participate in the CPP, what will happen is that you're going to pay $250 up front. So you're getting then the contract. You will be responsible for working with the client and collecting the refundable setup fee. The refundable setup fee is still the $9.99, right? Because it's the standard agreement that we use internally. So essentially you're paying $750 of the $9.99. So if you back it out, you're generating $250 profit. But you'll pay $250 up front for us to transfer the client agreement to you. The other $500 of the $750 you don't pay us until after that they've paid. So you're going to net only $250 on the front end, where if you went and generated your own organic client, normally you would generate $1,000 on the front end. So that's the big difference of all of this. So you got to consider that, and that's a fact. The reason for this is twofold. Number one, they're on a lower price contract, so of course you're going to make less. And then secondly, we've done the work to go market and get them under contract. So you'd have to be cognizant. Now, on the other side of the table, it's providing you a steady flow of clients. You're going to make all the other money, which we're going to go through in a minute. And it keeps you compliant, because if you're not generating the numbers, this is really probably your saving grace. Otherwise, you're going to need to pay the license fee. So the performance fee is still split normally, right? So we know it's a standard 10%. We covered that up here. Sorry, up here. So you're still making the 5,000. We're making the 5,000. So this is the same as if you generated the client organically. And the back end, or these add-ons, if you will, as needed, are still split 50-50. So of these three bullets, these two are just the same, even as if you develop the client organically. So that's great. So there's no consequence. But on the front end, it's different. It's different. You're paying $250 up front for each client that's placed with you. Then you're going to work with them going forward. So Ken asked the question, where are they in the phases? His question is a little bit different. I'll just paraphrase. So they're an executed contract, and they're typically going to be at the very front end of phase one. They're under agreement. So they will not have paid yet in most cases. In most cases, they've not done the soft pull. In most cases, they've not done the PFS. So they're not through phase one. They're at the front end of phase one. Peter brings up a great point. He says this might be something that he'd want to do just for 1 month as he's ramping up. And that's exactly right. So you're able to participate in this on a client-by-client basis. It's not something like you have to sign up for and commit to some volume. It's just you simply let us know, are you looking for a client today or this week, or a couple clients? And so you can participate or not participate at whim. You don't have to make outstanding commitments. But we do need to let you know, because we're rolling this out. We beta tested it. It's worked pretty well. The key is this warm handoff, which I think we have down now pretty well. So we just essentially need to know if you want to participate. And so if you want to participate, what are you going to do? You're going to pay us a $250, and we're going to place a client with you. And then we'll transfer that client over. It's really pretty simple. You're just outsourcing it. I think the biggest, I'll make it smaller. I think the biggest criticism is if we were doing the normal setup fee of 2,000 instead of 999, it would be more profitable for you. And maybe we'll morph into that in the future. But right now, we're ready to go. So what I would ask each of you to do is look at your start date for your branch and then take 30 days out because you got a 30-day grace period. After that, you're responsible. You committed. You gave your word that you would generate at least 2 clients per week. After that, look to see if you're compliant. If you're compliant, then this becomes much more optional. But frankly, if you're not compliant, you're down to 2 choices. Either get some clients through the CPP, which is great for everyone, or pay your license fee, because we agreed to waive that or defer it, I should say, perpetually as long as you're active in meeting this criteria. So we don't want to punish, but this is an alternative. You know, in business, they call it the buy or build scenario, and that's true with just about anything. With a house, for example, you could go build your own house, couldn't you? Or you could buy one that someone else built. Same for clothing. You could technically go make your own clothing. There's some cultures in our society that does that. Or you could go buy it. You can go generate your own clients if you'd like, or you can buy them. So essentially, you're buying them for $250. But you're getting the full value proposition. Trevor's asking about timing. Yeah, so all of these will be relatively new clients. Some might have signed 2 minutes ago, and some might have signed 2 days ago. So there could be a little bit of difference there, but they're all under contract. Lon asked a great question. I figured it would come up. What if the client doesn't pay? So let's go through that scenario. And I think you'll like this answer, Lon and everyone else. So let's say that Lon, who's one of our branches, signs up. Well, he didn't sign up. There's no sign up. It just says he wants a client transferred to him through CPP. Great. So he pays $250 and we transfer a client, transfer the client agreement over to Lon. Now his branch owns it. What does that mean the moment that we transfer that to Lon? Lon's branch is now posting to his QuickBooks or whatever system he's using an accounts receivable for $10,000 because that's what the client has promised to do. Lon is now owed $10,000 from that client from the moment we transfer that agreement to him. What can Lon do in QuickBooks? He can now factor that and get immediate funding, well, immediate within 1 to 2 business days. So now Lon has an asset that makes his business look stronger. It's a real asset. He can generate an invoice within his QuickBooks, and he can factor that invoice. So Lon can turn that $250 into thousands of dollars, right? We've talked about the factoring company that will advance you 97% of the value of the client, of the invoice. So Lon could turn $250 into $9,700 theoretically by factoring it, but separate from that. That wasn't Lon's question. So let's say Lon does this, we transfer a client, and for whatever reason, the client's a dud. I don't know why, but doesn't follow through. Could happen. I guess if you buy enough clients, it probably will happen, but that's fine. Then we're going to put them into our litigation program. So what that would mean is then we would take responsibility for sending them a demand letter, certified mail, return receipt requested. We would post their breach on their contract. I'm sorry, on their credit. We post their contractual breach on their credit. That's what I'm trying to spit out there. And then we would even litigate against them. So we have a system in place if someone breaches their agreement. So we would do that. And so Lon would still be getting 50% of that 10,000 because the contract with the client says they're promising to pay 10,000. It's just they don't pay it until after their capital raise. If they breach, then there's an acceleration clause. Now they owe it upon demand. So Lon, frankly, will make pretty much the same amount of money, even if the client doesn't participate. So there's, we talk about our collateral support program and buying receivables. Here, quite frankly, you're buying a receivable. Now, there's services to be provided, and these are in good standing. These are not defaulted. But really, what you're doing is you're buying a receivable. So either most clients, of course, participate and will do what they promise to do. Lon's concern is what if they don't? They're still going to pay you, either voluntarily or involuntarily, through that process. So there is no risk to you, Lon. Great question. Sadrudin says he's interested, but then asks the question, when do they pay the performance fee? Well, we're going to transfer the agreement. We're going to transfer the client file to you, Sadrudin. So now it's your branch's clients, no longer ours. You will have paid the $250. We've transferred that asset to you. You've probably gone into your QuickBooks, posted it as a receivable, which makes your branch more solid, more solvent, more eligible for funding if that's a goal. But I guess the answer to your question is our model is performance fees are, well, they're paid one of two ways, and maybe that's what I confuse Sadrudin on. Normally, performance fees are paid after the client has a capital raise. That's the norm. Take Eric, who's on here. So Eric has a client. Eric's client's name starts with an S. We'll just keep it generic S. She received $20,000 already. She's got more in the pipeline, but in her first tranche, she received $20,000. We got notified yesterday of that. So Eric invoiced his client S, quote unquote S, a performance fee for the $20,000, which of course is $2,000. Well, he charges 15%, so it was a $33,500 invoice, and then the client has 2 days to pay per the agreement. So in general, clients pay performance fees after they receive their funding. Then you invoice them, you meaning the branch, and then normally they have 2 days to pay. So that's the way it normally works. Now, if you have a client, and this kind of goes back to Lon. So let's say that Lon's client didn't participate, then that's called a default, and there's an acceleration clause in the agreement. So now the client actually owes the full performance fee now, even though they didn't receive any money because they're not doing what they promised to do. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so there's a couple questions about the financing, I guess 3 or 4. So let's talk about that. So we'll use Bernard for example. And Bernard, we got the pro forma completed for your client to submit for the SBA loan. That was done this morning, so it's good to go. All right, so let's say that Bernard, who's one of our branches, he participates in the client placement program, gets a client, and so he pays the $250. We transfer legally the rights, the contract from us to Bernard. So again, it is buying a receivable. It's a live receivable. It's a performing receivable, not a default receivable like we often talk about with the collateral support program. This is even better, right? So now the client is Bernard's client, no longer our client, now Bernard's client, and we do a warm handoff. Well, as we mentioned, the client has not yet paid the refundable setup fee. So Bernard's going to pick up the baton, reach out to the client, say, hey, great, Bernard or his staff, hey, great, going to be working with you. Thank you so much for enrolling in the credit and funding program. From this point forward, I'm going to be your point of contact. We do see that there's a refundable setup fee. You promised to pay, you haven't paid. I'm going to get an invoice over. Can you go ahead and get that paid today so we can progress without any delays? Most people will. But let's say that they say, no, I won't, or I can't. In other words, they need to do the 0% financing. So then what would Bernard do? Well, the normal thing. Bernard would collect a $250 down payment, just like the normal. And so Bernard would collect the $250. He would keep half. He would send half to us, the normal. And then we would set up 0% financing for the client for the rest. And as those payments come in, which would be $250 a month, then we would be splitting those evenly. So yeah, the 0% is still available for the client through this. Yeah, we're not taking that away because we know some people want that, some people need that. All right, so who else has questions or concerns before we end today's training? The client placement program, it's a new resource. It's available to you. You don't have to sign a contract. You simply let us know. And you need to let us know how many clients do you want transferred. You're going to forward payment to us, and we're going to literally transfer the clients over to you. Sound good? Let us know if you have any questions. We will see you back on Monday morning. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.